Have you ever stopped to look at the money in your hand, or perhaps you just tapped your phone to pay for coffee? It seems so simple, so normal, yet behind that simple act lies a story thousands of years in the making. It is a story about human ingenuity, cooperation, conflict. It is the story of money. Why did we invent it? The short answer: life without it was incredibly difficult. Imagine you're a skilled fisherman. You have more fish than you can eat. You need bread, but the baker does not want your fish. He wants new shoes. Now you must find a shoemaker who happens to want fish. This complicated dance is called barter. It's slow, inefficient, and it limits what a society can achieve. Money was invented to solve this problem. It's a tool, perhaps the most important we've ever created. It acts as a universal language of value. With money, the fisherman can sell his fish to anyone for a handful of coins. He can then take those coins to the baker and buy bread. The baker can use those same coins to buy what he needs. Money breaks the chains of barter. It allows specialization and trade on a massive scale. It helps societies grow from small tribes into bustling cities and into global networks. Without money, the modern world as we know it could not exist. It's the invisible force that connects our work, our needs, and our desires. This story isn't just about the past, it's happening right now, all around us. The nature of money is changing faster today than ever. We're moving from physical cash to digital data. We send money across continents in seconds. New forms of money, like cryptocurrencies, are being born from computer code. These changes create new opportunities and bring new risks. They challenge ideas about what money is and who should control it. Understanding the long history of money is the first step to understanding the profound shifts reshaping our financial lives and our world. The journey isn't over. A new chapter is just beginning. This essay will take you on that journey. We'll explore the origins of this powerful invention. We'll see how it has evolved through different ages and civilizations. It's a story about how a promise, a shared belief in the value of a token, a piece of paper, or a digital entry, can organize entire societies. It's a story about technology, from the simple hammer that struck the first coin to the complex algorithms that run today's financial markets. Most of all, it's the story of us. It reveals our constant search for better ways to cooperate, trade, and build our futures together. Money is not just economics. It's a fundamental part of the human story. To understand where money is going, we must first understand where it has been. A straight line is the clearest path between 2 points. Therefore, we will follow a timeline. This approach allows us to see how each new form of money emerged from the last. We can observe how it solved old problems while often creating new ones. Our story is not a random collection of facts. It is a logical progression. It is a cause and effect narrative that unfolds over millennia. We will divide this long history into 4 distinct acts, like a play. Each act represents a major transformation in the technology and idea of money, showing us a clear pattern of development. Our journey begins in the ancient world, in Act 1. Here, we will leave behind the clumsy system of barter. We will witness the rise of commodity money, salt, shells, grain. These were useful, but still imperfect. The real revolution was the invention of coins. We will travel to ancient Lydia and China to see how the first standardized, government-guaranteed metal discs changed everything. They made trade easier, faster, and more reliable. They also gave rulers a powerful new tool to fund armies, build monuments, and project their authority across vast territories. This was the birth of money as we know it. In Act 2, we will jump forward to a world of paper and promises. As trade grew, carrying heavy bags of coins became impractical. This led to the invention of paper money and the birth of modern banking. We will see how goldsmiths in Europe started issuing paper notes that were promises to pay in gold. These notes were the ancestors of our banknotes today. This era also saw the rise of powerful nation-states and their central banks. They took control of money creation, leading to concepts like the gold standard and, eventually, the fiat money we use today. Money that has value simply because a government declares it does. It was a time of expanding empires, global trade, and devastating wars. all financed by these new financial tools. Finally, we will arrive in the modern era in Acts 3 and 4. Act 3 covers the digital revolution of the late 20th century. This is when money began to disappear from physical view, transforming into electronic signals. Credit cards, wire transfers, ATMs made money move at the speed of light. Globalization boomed, but this new system also brought new forms of instability, like the 2008 financial crisis. This sets the stage for our final act, Act 4, which is unfolding today. Here we will explore the frontier, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, mobile money systems transforming Africa, and the race by governments to create their own central bank digital currencies. We are living through the next great monetary revolution. What drives these massive shifts in the story of money? It is not one single thing. Instead, three powerful forces have worked together: trust, technology, power. Understanding how they interact is the key to the past, present, and future of money. At every step, first clay tablet, to the latest blockchain. These three themes decide which forms of money succeed and which fail. They decide who wins and who loses. Trust is the invisible foundation of all money. Money has no inherent value. A dollar bill is just a piece of paper. A number in your bank account is just data on a server. It only works because we collectively believe it. We trust that others will accept it as payment. Trust placed in gold, trust placed in silver, trust placed in reliable banks, trust placed in powerful governments, trust placed in central banks. Today, trust is placed in technology. Today, trust is placed in computer code. When trust breaks down, money fails. Technology is the great enabler of monetary change. Metallurgy, uniform coins, the printing press, paper money, the telegraph, the internet, cryptography, mobile phone networks. Technology solves scalability. Technology solves security. Technology solves speed. It turns ideas into practical money. Power is the third critical engine. Control of money equals immense power. Rulers and states seek to control creation and circulation. Stamping a king's face on a coin, secures sovereignty. Issuing money lets governments fund activities. Issuing money can fund wars. Issuing money influences the economy. The history of money is a history of political struggle. Battles have been fought over who creates money and sets its value. Today, decentralized cryptocurrencies challenge the state's monopoly on money. Centralized power, decentralized networks. That tension defines our time. Table of Contents, Part 2. Act 1. Barter to coins. Before money, there was barter. It was the original form of trade, a simple and direct exchange of goods and services. If you had a surplus, you looked for someone who wanted it and had what you needed. It worked in small, close-knit communities. A farmer with extra wool trades with a potter for a clay jar. A hunter exchanges fresh meat for flint arrowheads from the toolmaker. Trade was personal, based on immediate needs and relationships. It was the foundation of economic life for thousands of years. As societies grew, barter's limits became clear. The system relied on a double coincidence of wants. You had to find someone who wanted what you had and who also had what you wanted. Imagine the difficulty. You are a boat builder needing a new roof. You must find a roofer who wants a boat. The chances are incredibly slim. Trade became slow, inefficient, often impossible. That inefficiency blocked economic progress. How could you store your wealth? A fisherman's wealth is his fish. Fish rot. A farmer's wealth is his grain. Grain can be eaten by pests or spoiled by moisture. Without a durable store of value, planning ahead was nearly impossible. How could you measure value? How many chickens is one cow worth? 20? 50? Is a small old cow the same as a large young one? Without a common unit of account, every deal meant a long negotiation. Barter kept societies at subsistence. Solving this was one of humanity's great quests. People needed a better way to trade, an intermediary everyone would accept. It wasn't a single inventor. It was a gradual cross-cultural process over centuries. The solution was practical, born from everyday trade. Humanity stood on the brink of inventing the very first form of money. The first solution to the problem of barter was the adoption of commodity money. People began to identify certain goods that were widely desired and that had useful qualities. These goods were valuable for direct use and as a medium of exchange. Instead of trading your fish for bread directly, you could trade your fish for a special commodity, then use that commodity to buy bread later. The baker would accept it because he could trade it for what he needed. This was a revolutionary step. It broke the double coincidence of wants and made trade much more flexible. What kinds of commodities were used? Choices depended on culture and environment. In agricultural societies, grain, rice, livestock. Romans, salt, sometimes used to pay soldiers. Salarium, hawser's salary. Indian Ocean, cowrie shells. Early America, tobacco, animal furs. These items shared key traits, generally accepted, somewhat durable, and a shared sense of value. Commodity money had a profound impact. It allowed longer distance trade across groups. It let people save wealth in a more durable form. A farmer could sell harvest for salt or shells and store that value for winter. It also provided a unit of account. Prices could be expressed in a single commodity. A house might be worth a number of cows. A sword might be worth a weight of grain. This simplified negotiations and enabled economic calculation. But it wasn't perfect. Commodity money had serious drawbacks. Grain could spoil. Large amounts of salt were heavy and hard to transport. Commodity values could fluctuate wildly. Drought could make grain scarce and valuable. A bumper crop could make it cheap. Divisibility was a problem. How to pay half a cow? So commodity money was crucial, but only an intermediate solution. The search for a better form of money continued. The use of precious metals for exchange was not a new idea. For centuries, merchants used chunks of silver and gold as money. Mesopotamia, Egypt, beyond. They carried metals in bags. For each transaction, they weighed them on scales. This system was called bullion. It solved durability and divisibility, but it had a major flaw. Merchants had to trust purity and trust the accuracy of scales. Every trade required time-consuming weighing and often purity testing. It was better than commodity money, but still inefficient. A breakthrough came around 600 BC in Lydia, modern Turkey. Lydia had rivers rich in electrum, a gold-silver alloy. They solved trust and verification once and for all. They pre-weighed standard amounts of electrum. Then they stamped each piece with an official symbol, often a lion. That stamping created the world's first coin. It was revolutionary. The coin was a promise, a state guarantee. The stamp certified a specific weight and purity. Merchants no longer needed scales. They didn't need metallurgy expertise to avoid being cheated. They could accept coins at face value, trusting the king. Commerce friction dropped dramatically. Transactions became faster, easier, and more secure. The Lydian coin was an information technology, a trusted brand conveying value at a glance. Coinage spread rapidly. Greek city-states adopted and refined coinage, using pure silver and gold. They stamped coins with images of gods, goddesses, and civic symbols. Coinage decoupled value from weighing. Trust shifted from trading partner to issuing authority, the state. This leap laid the financial groundwork for the classical empires. While the Lydians were stamping their first coins in the West, a remarkably similar process of innovation was unfolding independently on the other side of the world. In China, during the Shang and Zhou dynasties, the use of commodity money was also widespread. The most important of these were cowrie shells, which served as a unit of account and a medium of exchange for centuries. The Chinese character for buy and sell still contain the symbol for shell, a testament to their ancient role as money. However, like other commodities, shells had their limits. They were fragile, came in inconsistent sizes, and supplies from the coast could be unreliable. As the Chinese economy grew, people began to search for a more practical alternative. They started creating bronze imitations of the valuable cowrie shells. These metal shells were more durable and could be produced in a standard size, solving some of the key problems of the real thing. This was a crucial intermediate step. It showed a conceptual leap from using an object that was inherently valuable, like a real shell, to using a token that simply represented value. From these bronze shells, the innovation took a uniquely Chinese path. Instead of creating round discs, they began to cast bronze money in the shapes of other useful objects: spades, knives. These spade money and knife money circulated for several hundred years, starting around the 6th century BC, concurrently with the Lydian invention. They were essentially stylized, miniature versions of real tools, but they were not intended for use as tools. They were created purely to be money. Like the Lydian coins, they were an attempt to standardize value and make trade easier. A piece of spade money had a recognized worth, allowing it to be exchanged for other goods without the need for barter. This parallel development shows that the invention of money was not a fluke of history, but a logical solution to a universal problem faced by developing economies everywhere. Eventually, around 221 BC, the first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, unified the country and implemented a series of sweeping reforms to centralize power. One of the most important of these was the standardization of money. He abolished all the various forms of spade and knife money and introduced a single national currency. This was a round copper coin with a square hole in the middle. The round shape represented heaven and the square hole represented the earth. More practically, the hole allowed the coins to be strung together in large quantities, making them easier to count and transport. This design was so successful that it remained the basis for Chinese coinage for over 2,000 years. The invention of coinage was more than just a commercial convenience. It was a profound political tool. When a king or a state stamped its seal onto a piece of metal, it was making a powerful statement. It was a declaration of sovereignty and authority. The image on the coin, a Lydian lion, a Greek owl, or the face of a Roman emperor, was a constant reminder of who was in charge. Coins acted as tiny, circulating pieces of propaganda, carrying the message of the state to every corner of the realm. Every time a person made a purchase, they held a symbol of state power in their hand. This helped to unify diverse territories and foster a shared identity under a single ruler. Furthermore, the state's monopoly over the creation of money gave it an immense source of revenue and power. Rulers controlled the mines that produced the precious metals and the mints that struck the coins. This gave them a direct way to finance their ambitions. If a king needed to raise an army, build a temple, pay for a lavish court, he could mint new coins. This was much more efficient than collecting taxes in the form of grain, livestock, or forced labor. Coinage allowed for the creation of paid professional armies and bureaucracies, which are the essential components of a strong, centralized state. The Roman Empire, for example, was built and maintained through its ability to pay its legions and administrators with standardized silver coins and gold coins. However, this power also came with a great temptation: the ability to debase the currency. If a ruler was short on funds, he could recall old coins and mint new ones with less precious metal in them. For instance, an emperor could melt down 3 old silver coins and reissue 4 or 5 new coins of the same face value, mixing the silver with a cheaper base metal like copper. This practice, known as debasement, was an early form of inflation. It allowed the state to secretly tax its people's savings and pay its debts with cheaper money. While it provided a short-term financial fix, it often led to long-term disaster. As people realized the coins were less valuable, they lost trust, and prices would rise dramatically, leading to economic chaos. The history of empires is therefore deeply intertwined with the history of their money. The rise of Rome was financed by its sound silver denarius. Its later decline was marked by centuries of rampant debasement as emperors struggled to pay for an overstretched military and a bloated bureaucracy. The coin was a double-edged sword. In the hands of a responsible state, it was a tool for prosperity and stability, fostering trade and unifying a kingdom. In the hands of a desperate or corrupt state, it became a tool for expropriation and, ultimately, a catalyst for collapse. The story of coinage is the first great lesson in how the fate of nations is tied to the integrity of their money. The age of coins solved many of the problems of barter and commodity money. Gold and silver were durable. Gold and silver were divisible. They held a high value in a small package. This financial technology fueled the growth of great empires. It created sprawling trade networks that crisscrossed the globe, from the Roman era through the Middle Ages. Merchants could now trade with greater confidence. States could manage their finances with greater precision. But as the world economy grew larger and more interconnected, during the Renaissance and the Age of Discovery, the mighty coin began to show limitations. A new set of problems emerged, not from the metal, but from the scale of commerce. The first major issue was security. Imagine a wealthy wool merchant in 15th century Florence. His wealth sits in chests of gold and silver coins. He becomes a prime target for thieves. Thieves on the road, thieves in his own home. Transporting sums to another city was perilous. To Venice, to Genoa, you had to hire armed guards. You traveled in convoys, adding cost and risk. As trade routes lengthened and volumes grew, moving metal became a drag on economic activity. The world needed a way to move value without moving the physical gold. The second problem was supply. Europe's economy was growing, but mining output was relatively fixed. That could lead to deflation, money becoming scarce, prices falling, economic activity slowing down. Reliance on metal made the money supply hostage to mining and exploration. Then the massive influx of silver and gold from the Americas, from Spanish treasure fleets in the 16th century, caused rampant inflation across Europe. The value of money became unstable. It was subject to discoveries and conquests far away. A sophisticated economy needed a more flexible, responsive money supply, one that could expand or contract based on economic needs, not just mining output. Finally, the problem of credit. Coins were great for settling transactions on the spot, but they were poor at creating credit. A coin in a merchant's vault is idle capital. It's not financing new ventures or expanding a business. As enterprise grew, so did the need for large loans to fund long sea voyages, to build new workshops, to invest in new technologies. Physical coins were too rigid to support dynamic credit creation. A new financial innovation was needed, representing value and facilitating credit without being tied to a chest of metal. The stage was set for the next leap, the invention of paper money. The solution to the problems of metal money did not come from a king or a government. It emerged from the workshops of private craftsmen, the goldsmiths. In 16th and 17th century Europe, goldsmiths were already in the business of security. They had strong vaults to protect their own valuable materials. Wealthy merchants realized it was safer to deposit their gold and silver coins with a trusted goldsmith for safekeeping than to hide them under their own floorboards. In return for a deposit, the goldsmith would issue a written receipt. This receipt was a promise, stating that the holder could redeem it for the specified amount of gold at any time. Initially, these receipts were just that, a claim ticket for a specific deposit. If a merchant wanted to pay a debt, he would go to the goldsmith, redeem his receipt for the physical coins, and then hand the coins over to his creditor. The creditor would then likely take those same coins and deposit them back with his own goldsmith for safety. It did not take long for merchants to realize there was a much simpler way. Instead of going through the cumbersome process of withdrawing and redepositing the gold, why not just hand over the goldsmith's paper receipt itself as payment? As long as the goldsmith was known to be trustworthy, his paper promise was as good as gold. This was the birth of the banknote. It was a revolutionary idea. The piece of paper itself was worthless, but it was a convenient and widely accepted symbol for the real money, the gold, that sat securely in the goldsmith's vault. This solved the problem of security and portability at a stroke. It was far safer and easier to carry a few pieces of paper representing 100 gold coins than to carry the coins themselves. This innovation greatly lubricated the wheels of commerce, making payments faster, safer, more efficient. The paper note was a new technology, a lightweight and transferable database entry that pointed to a value held elsewhere. The goldsmiths soon had an even more profound insight. They noticed that on any given day, only a small fraction of their depositors ever came in to demand their gold. The vast majority of the gold coins simply sat idle in the vaults. This meant the goldsmith could safely issue more paper promises, more banknotes, than the actual amount of gold he held. He could lend these new unbacked notes to borrowers and charge them interest. This was the beginning of fractional reserve banking. The goldsmith had transformed from a simple security guard into a bank, an institution that could literally create new money in the form of credit. This power would change the world, funding everything from small businesses to entire empires. The success of private bankers like the goldsmiths demonstrated the power of paper money and credit creation. But it created a new kind of instability. The whole system depended on trust in individual bankers. If a banker issued too many notes and rumors spread he couldn't honor them, depositors would panic. They rushed to the bank to demand their gold. A bank run. The banker had lent more notes than gold and ran out of reserves. He would go bankrupt. Holders of his now worthless notes were ruined. These crises showed the need for a stable, centralized system. Governments, hungry for funds, saw an opportunity and a threat. Finance could fund state needs, especially war. In 1694, England was heavily in debt, fighting France. Financiers proposed a deal: lend the government a huge sum. In return, they got a monopoly to issue banknotes. The Bank of England. A landmark, state power partnered with banking. The first effective central bank. The central bank had key roles. First, it became the government's banker, loans and national debt management. Second, it became a banker to private banks. Smaller banks could borrow emergency gold or notes to calm runs. The central bank became the lender of last resort, a systemic backstop. That boosted stability and public trust in paper money. Control of money shifted to a powerful public-private institution. Over 2 centuries, other nations followed. Banque de France, founded by Napoleon in 1800. German Reichsbank, established in 1876. U.S. Federal Reserve, created in 1913 after repeated panics. Central banks shaped the modern nation-state. They consolidated monetary power to manage economies, fund states, and project influence. Money became an instrument of national policy. As paper money issued by numerous banks and countries proliferated, a new problem arose: how to manage exchange rates between them. What was a French franc, issued by the Banque de France, worth in terms of a British pound, issued by the Bank of England? Without a common anchor, international trade and investment would be plagued by uncertainty. The solution that emerged in the 19th century was the classical gold standard. This was an international monetary system where the world's major currencies were all linked together through a common peg to a fixed amount of gold. It was the first truly globalized financial system. Under the gold standard, each country's central bank guaranteed exchange of its paper banknotes for a predetermined quantity of gold. The Bank of England, for example, would exchange its pounds for gold at a set price. The United States government would do the same for its dollars. Because both the pound and the dollar were defined by a certain weight of gold, this created a fixed and stable exchange rate between them. A British merchant selling goods to an American customer knew exactly how many dollars he needed to receive to equal a certain number of pounds. This predictability was a tremendous boon for international trade, which grew to unprecedented levels in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The gold standard operated as a self-regulating mechanism that, in theory, kept economies in balance. If a country, say Britain, bought more goods from other countries than it sold to them, it would have a trade deficit. To pay for this deficit, gold would physically flow out of the Bank of England and into the vaults of other countries. This reduction in the gold supply would force the Bank of England to reduce the amount of paper money in circulation. This would, in turn, cause prices in Britain to fall, making British goods cheaper and more attractive to foreigners. At the same time, the inflow of gold into other countries would expand their money supplies and raise their prices. This automatic adjustment mechanism would naturally correct the trade imbalance over time. For a time, the gold standard provided a remarkable period of price stability and economic integration. It was seen as a symbol of sound, responsible finance, a golden anchor that prevented governments from printing money recklessly. However, the system had a major weakness. Its rigidity meant that governments lost control over their domestic economic policy. If a country was facing a recession with high unemployment, The rules of the gold standard required it to tighten its money supply if it was losing gold, making the recession even worse. This rigid discipline was the system's greatest strength in peacetime, but it would prove to be its fatal flaw when confronted with the immense pressures of a global crisis. The discipline of the gold standard worked well during the relatively peaceful and prosperous late 19th century. But this stability was shattered by the outbreak of World War I in 1914. War is phenomenally expensive. Governments needed to mobilize every resource, build massive armies, produce vast quantities of weapons and ammunition. The gold standard's strict limits tied money printing to gold reserves and proved a major obstacle. Faced with total war, every major combatant made the same choice. They suspended the gold standard. Freed from the golden fetters, governments turned to central banks and the printing presses to finance the war. They issued massive amounts of new paper money and sold huge quantities of government bonds. It was easier than raising taxes to pay for the war. The result, a massive increase in the money supply across Europe. More money chased fewer goods, as factories focused on war production, not consumer goods, and the inevitable outcome was massive inflation. Prices skyrocketed, and savings in paper currency were decimated. The most extreme example came in Germany after the war. Burdened by reparations from the Treaty of Versailles, the German government printed money on an almost unimaginable scale to meet its obligations. This led to the hyperinflation of 1923. The German mark collapsed. Prices doubled every few days, then every few hours. People's life savings became worthless. A loaf of bread that cost a few marks before the war eventually cost billions. This wiped out the German middle class, created profound social and political instability, and helped pave the way for extremist movements, including the Nazi Party. The experience of war and inflation changed how citizens saw money. It shattered belief in permanent currency stability. It taught a harsh lesson. Paper money not backed by a commodity can be erased by policy. Attempts to return to a modified gold standard in the 1920s failed to restore credibility. The Great Depression, starting in 1929, delivered the final blow. One by one, countries abandoned gold, prioritizing domestic recovery over fixed exchange rates. A new monetary era was about to begin. The collapse of the gold standard during the Great Depression was a pivotal moment in the history of money. For thousands of years, money had been defined by its connection to a physical commodity, a cow, a shell, a fixed weight of gold. This commodity money system was based on the idea that money should have some intrinsic value. When governments abandoned gold in the 1930s, they ushered in the age of modern fiat money. The word fiat comes from Latin, meaning "let it be done." Fiat money is legal tender declared by a government but not backed by a physical commodity. Its value comes from the authority of the state and the collective trust of the people. A US dollar bill, a euro note has value because government says so and because people believe it will be accepted. This is a profound conceptual leap. The value of money is no longer anchored to physical gold in a vault. Instead, it's a social construct managed by the central bank. This gives governments enormous flexibility. The shift to fiat changed the goals and tools of economic management. Under the gold standard, the goal was to maintain the peg to gold. Under fiat, central bank goals are: maintain price stability, control inflation, promote maximum employment, and ensure stability of the financial system. Central banks can manage the money supply, increase it to fight a recession, lower interest rates, encourage borrowing, or decrease it to combat inflation, raise interest rates. Money is now a primary lever to steer the economy. Formalized after World War II and solidified when the US cut the dollar's link to gold in 1971, it has financed economic growth and technological progress, but it carries risks. Without gold, maintaining value rests on central bank discipline. The temptation to print money to cover debts is a constant threat, and misused power can lead to high inflation. Fiat money is a constant balancing act between flexibility and stability, a tension that defines our modern financial world. As World War II drew to a close in 1944, leaders of the Allied nations gathered in the small town of Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. They were determined to avoid repeating the economic chaos that had followed World War I. Hyperinflation, competitive devaluations, the Great Depression. Their goal was to design a new international monetary system that would promote global trade, economic growth, and political stability. They sought a framework to balance fixed exchange rates, the great virtue of the gold standard, with the flexibility countries needed to manage their domestic economies, a freedom they had gained with fiat money. The result was the Bretton Woods system, a new architecture for the world's money. The system they created was ingenious, placing the United States dollar at the very center of the global financial universe. While other countries could no longer convert their currencies directly into gold, the U.S. government made a unique promise. It pledged to redeem U.S. dollars for gold at a fixed rate of $35 per ounce, but only for foreign central banks. All other major currencies were then pegged to the US dollar at a fixed exchange rate: British pound, French franc, German mark. This created what was known as a gold exchange standard. The dollar was the new anchor of the system, the foundation upon which all other currency values were built, itself supposedly anchored to gold. This new order provided the world with a period of remarkable stability and prosperity. For nearly 3 decades, exchange rates were predictable, which gave businesses the confidence to engage in long-term international trade and investment. The post-war economies of Europe and Japan were able to rebuild at a breathtaking pace, leading to what the French called les 30 glorieuses, the 30 glorious years of economic growth. The Bretton Woods system seemed to offer the best of both worlds. The stability of a gold-backed currency combined with enough flexibility for national governments to pursue policies aimed at full employment and social welfare, all under the umbrella of American economic leadership. However, the system contained a fundamental contradiction, a fatal flaw that would eventually lead to its undoing. This was known as the Triffin dilemma. For the global economy to grow, the world needed an increasing supply of dollars to finance trade. But the United States could only supply these dollars by running a persistent trade deficit, sending more dollars abroad than it received. As the number of dollars held by foreign central banks grew, they began to dwarf the U.S. gold reserves held at Fort Knox. It became increasingly clear that the U.S. could not possibly honor its promise to convert all those foreign-held dollars back into gold. The system rested on a confidence that was slowly but surely eroding. By the late 1960s, the cracks in the Bretton Woods system were turning into a chasm. The United States was running massive deficits, partly due to the escalating costs of the Vietnam War and ambitious domestic social programs. The world was awash with United States dollars. Foreign central banks, particularly in Europe, grew increasingly nervous. They saw their vaults filling up with a currency that was supposedly as good as gold, yet the pile of gold backing it up in America was not growing. Some countries, led by France under President Charles de Gaulle, began to openly challenge the system by demanding that the United States make good on its promise and exchange their dollars for physical gold. This put the United States in an impossible position. A trickle of gold leaving its vaults soon threatened to become a flood. If the United States did nothing, it faced the prospect of a catastrophic run on its gold reserves, which would shatter the credibility of the dollar and throw the global financial system into chaos. The pressure became unbearable. On the evening of August 15, 1971, United States President Richard Nixon appeared on national television and made a stunning announcement. He declared that the United States would unilaterally and immediately suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold. This event, which became known as the Nixon shock, effectively ended the Bretton Woods system. The temporary suspension became permanent. With this single decision, the world's last formal link between money and a physical commodity was severed. For the first time in history, the entire global monetary system was based on pure fiat currencies. No major currency was backed by gold or any other tangible asset. The value of a dollar, a pound, or a yen was now determined solely by the forces of supply and demand in global markets, and by the trust people had in the governments and central banks that issued them. The era of fixed exchange rates was over, replaced by a new and uncertain world of floating currencies whose values could change dramatically from one day to the next. This move sent shockwaves through the global economy. It unleashed a decade of volatility, with high inflation and turbulent currency markets. The price of gold, no longer fixed at $35 an ounce, soared to over $800 by 1980. The price of oil, which was priced in dollars, quadrupled in 1973, leading to a severe energy crisis and a global recession. The end of Bretton Woods was a powerful demonstration of how the nature of money is ultimately a political choice. A system that had been painstakingly designed to last for generations was dismantled overnight by a single act of political power driven by national interest. It set the stage for a new era of financial globalization, one with fewer rules and far greater risks. In the new world of floating fiat currencies that emerged after 1971, the volume of international financial transactions exploded. Banks, corporations, investors were now constantly buying and selling different currencies to facilitate trade, make investments, or speculate on price movements. The old telex system was slow and error-prone, and it was no longer adequate for this fast-paced environment. Each bank had its own formatting standards, causing miscommunications, delays, and costly manual interventions. The global financial system needed a new set of pipes, a universal language for moving money across borders. The solution arrived in 1973, the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, better known as SWIFT, a cooperative venture founded by hundreds of banks from North America and Europe. SWIFT didn't move money itself. It ran a highly secure messaging network, letting member banks send and receive standardized payment instructions quickly and reliably. A bank in New York sending money to a bank in Tokyo would send a SWIFT message with account numbers, amounts, and currency. The Tokyo bank would receive the message and credit the recipient's account. SWIFT's impact was profound. It became the technological backbone of financial globalization. By creating a common, trusted communication standard, it radically reduced cost, time, and risk of international payments. Transactions that once took days of telex back and forth and manual processing could now be confirmed in minutes. This efficiency unleashed a tidal wave of cross-border capital flows. An investor in London could buy a stock in Germany just as easily as in the United Kingdom. Money became electronic, dematerialized from physical form, transformed into secure data packets flying across the globe. The new infrastructure concentrated enormous power within the network. With virtually every international bank as a member, connection to SWIFT became essential to the global economy. That gave countries with influence over the Belgium-based organization, particularly the United States, a powerful tool of financial statecraft. In the 21st century, cutting banks off SWIFT became a potent economic sanction, effectively isolating a nation from the global financial system. The invisible plumbing of the world's money had become a visible instrument of geopolitical power, unforeseen by its technically minded founders. While SWIFT was revolutionizing international finance, another innovation was changing the very nature of money for ordinary people. This was the rise of the credit card. The idea was not entirely new. Some department stores had issued charge cards to their loyal customers for decades, but the concept of a universal payment card, one that could be used at thousands of different merchants, first took hold in the United States in the 1950s. The story goes that a businessman named Frank McNamara conceived the idea for the Diners Club card after being embarrassed when he forgot his wallet while dining out. He envisioned a card that would allow trusted members to pay on credit at multiple establishments. The idea quickly evolved with the creation of bank-issued cards, Bank AmeriCard, which later became Visa, and the Interbank Card Association, which became MasterCard. These cards represented a fundamental shift in how payments were made. Instead of using physical cash or writing a check, a consumer could simply present a small plastic card. The merchant would record the transaction, and the bank would pay the merchant. At the end of the month, the consumer would receive a single bill from the bank for all their purchases. The card was a promise to pay, backed by the bank's trust in the cardholder's creditworthiness. For the consumer, it offered unparalleled convenience and the ability to borrow instantly. The credit card was more than just a convenience. It was a technology that effectively created private, decentralized money. When you swipe a credit card, you are not spending money you already have in your bank account, as you do with a debit card. Instead, the bank is creating a new, short-term loan for you on the spot. Your spending limit is, in effect, a personal money supply that you can access at will. This massive expansion of consumer credit fueled decades of economic growth, particularly in the United States, by enabling households to spend more than their current income, financing everything from cars to holidays to everyday groceries. This plastic revolution also marked a key step in the dematerialization of money. While the card itself is a physical object, the value it represents is purely electronic information. The transaction involves swiping a magnetic stripe or, later, dipping a chip, which sends data through a network connecting the merchant, the bank, and the payment processor. Cash was used less and less for everyday transactions. Money for most people was no longer something they held in their hands, but a number on a monthly statement or a digital balance displayed on a screen. This abstraction of money paved the way for the even more profound digital transformations that were to come. The combination of floating fiat currencies, the SWIFT network, and the widespread adoption of electronic payments created a new era of hyperglobalization. Floating fiat currencies, the SWIFT network, widespread adoption of electronic payments. Capital, now freed from physical constraints, could flow across borders with unprecedented speed and volume. A fund manager in New York could move billions of dollars into the Japanese stock market with a few keystrokes, and then pull it out just as quickly. This new reality brought enormous benefits. It allowed capital to flow to where it was most needed, funding new industries in emerging economies, giving investors new opportunities to diversify their portfolios and increase their returns. Global trade and investment soared to record levels. This free flow of capital, however, also created new and dangerous forms of instability. Hot money, short-term speculative capital, could rush into a small developing country, fueling an unsustainable economic boom. But just as quickly, at the first sign of trouble, that same money could rush out, causing the country's currency to collapse, its stock market to crash, and its banks to fail. The 1997 Asian financial crisis was a textbook example of this phenomenon. Thailand, South Korea, Indonesia. These countries, once praised as Asian tigers, were brought to their knees in months as foreign investors panicked and pulled their capital out en masse. These crises revealed the dark side of financial globalization. The same system that facilitated productive investment could also transmit financial contagion around the world with terrifying speed. A crisis that started in one country could quickly spread to others, even those with sound economic fundamentals. The power had shifted from national governments to the abstract and faceless entity of the global market. International organizations like the International Monetary Fund were often called in to provide bailout loans, but these loans came with strict conditions that required countries to adopt painful austerity measures, leading to widespread social and political unrest. This led to a growing backlash against globalization, a feeling that the system was rigged in favor of international financiers at the expense of ordinary citizens. The critics argued the system increased inequality, undermined national sovereignty, and prioritized the stability of financial markets over the well-being of people. The promise of global integration, once bright, was now seen by many as a source of instability and injustice. The tension between the borderless world of electronic money and the bordered world of national politics became a defining feature of the late 20th and early 21st centuries, The tensions inherent in the globalized financial system reached their terrifying climax in 2008. The crisis had its roots years earlier in the U.S. housing market. Low interest rates, lax regulation, and a belief that house prices would never fall fueled a massive bubble. Banks, mortgage lenders, issued increasingly risky loans, known as subprime mortgages, to borrowers with poor credit. These individual mortgages were then bundled together into complex financial products called mortgage-backed securities. These securities were sold to investors all over the world: pension funds in Norway, city governments in Germany, banks in Japan. The rating agencies, which were paid by the banks creating these products, gave these risky securities their highest safety ratings, A08A. This gave investors a false sense of security. The global financial system had become a vast and opaque network of interconnected promises. A bank in France might not know it was exposed to the risk of a factory worker in Ohio defaulting on their home loan, but it was, through several layers of complex financial engineering. When the U.S. housing bubble finally burst in 2007 and homeowners began to default, the value of these securities plummeted. Suddenly, banks all over the world realized their balance sheets were filled with worthless assets. The system of trust that underpins all money began to break down. Banks stopped trusting each other. They didn't know who was solvent and who was about to fail. Lending between banks, the essential lubricant of the entire financial system, froze completely. In September 2008, the U.S. investment bank Lehman Brothers was allowed to go bankrupt, triggering a full-blown panic. It was the electronic equivalent of a global bank run. Credit markets seized up, stock markets crashed, and the world economy plunged into the deepest recession since the Great Depression. The crisis was a stark reminder that even in an age of electronic money, the old demons of panic, fear, and contagion were still very much alive. In response, governments and central banks were forced to intervene on a scale never seen before. They bailed out the world's largest banks, insurance companies, and even car manufacturers, declaring them too big to fail. Central banks, led by the U.S. Federal Reserve, slashed interest rates to zero and began printing trillions of dollars of new electronic money through a policy called quantitative easing to pump liquidity back into the frozen financial system. They managed to prevent a total collapse, but the 2008 crisis left a deep scar. It shattered public faith in the financial elite and the governments that bailed them out, fueling populist anger and deep skepticism about the fairness and stability of the entire global monetary order. It was out of the ashes of this crisis that a radical new idea for money would emerge. Surprisingly. The financial crisis of 2008 shattered trust in the established system. Banks had been reckless. Regulators had been asleep. Governments had bailed out the powerful while ordinary people lost their homes and jobs. It was in this atmosphere of profound disillusionment that a mysterious figure, using the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto, published a white paper in October 2008. The paper was titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. It proposed a radical new form of money, one that did not rely on any central authority like a bank or a government. It was a direct response to the failures of the traditional financial world. The dream was to create money for the internet age, native to the digital world. Nakamoto's vision was for a currency that was truly decentralized. Transactions would not be processed by a bank, but by a global network of computers run by volunteers. This network would be open for anyone to join. Instead of a central ledger held by a single institution, Bitcoin would use a shared public ledger called a blockchain. Every transaction would be recorded as a block and added to a chain, creating a permanent and unchangeable record. This technology solved a key problem of digital money known as the double spending problem without needing a trusted third party. You couldn't spend the same digital coin twice because the entire network would see the first transaction and reject the second. The system's trust did not come from a government decree or a bank's reputation. Instead, trust was placed in mathematics and computer code. The rules of the Bitcoin network were enforced by cryptography, the software protocol code, which dictated that only 21 million coins would ever exist. This made it a scarce digital asset, like a digital form of gold. No central bank could decide to print more of it and devalue the holdings of its users. It was designed to be a predictable, transparent, and censorship-resistant form of money, controlled by no one and therefore open to everyone. It was a bold libertarian experiment in finance. For its first few years, Bitcoin was a niche interest, used only by a small community of cryptographers, coders, and cypherpunks. They were drawn to its elegant technical design and its revolutionary political implications. It represented a fundamental challenge to the state's centuries-old monopoly on the creation and control of money. It was the first time a non-sovereign digital currency had succeeded where many others had failed. While its future role remains fiercely debated, is it a currency, a speculative asset, or a new kind of financial infrastructure? The invention of Bitcoin opened a Pandora's box. It proved that private, decentralized digital money was possible, and it sparked a wave of innovation that continues to reshape our understanding of finance. Section 2. The leapfrog effect, mobile money in Kenya. While Bitcoin was capturing the imagination of technologists in the developed world, a different kind of monetary revolution was already taking place, driven by a much simpler technology. This revolution was not happening in Silicon Valley or on Wall Street, but in East Africa. In 2007, Safaricom launched M-Pesa. The M stood for mobile, and Pesa is the Swahili word for money. It allowed people to send and receive small amounts using text messages on basic feature phones. It was designed to solve a real-world problem for millions without bank access. Before M-Pesa, sending money was slow, expensive, and dangerous. A Nairobi worker sending cash home would hand it to a bus driver or rely on a friend, with no guarantee it arrived. Most people were unbanked. M-Pesa changed everything. Anyone with a mobile phone and Safaricom SIM card could visit a corner store or M-Pesa agent and convert cash into electronic money on their phone, then send that value to any other phone user instantly via SMS. Success was explosive, a classic leapfrog innovation. Kenya jumped from a cash-based economy to a mobile-first digital economy, bypassing plastic cards and bank branches. Built on things people already had and trusted, mobile phones and local shopkeepers. Accessible, affordable, and far more convenient. People used M-Pesa to send money, pay for groceries, settle utility bills, and receive salaries. It became the de facto financial system. Impact went far beyond convenience. It brought millions into the formal financial system. Financial inclusion. It empowered small businesses, especially women-led businesses, giving a safe way to manage money and accept payments. It made households more resilient, fast help from relatives in emergencies. The M-Pesa story. The future of money isn't just complex cryptography. It's using appropriate tech to solve human needs. A private telecom could become a major monetary player, challenging banks. Section 3. The search for stability. The rise of stablecoins. Bitcoin introduced the world to the power of decentralized, borderless digital currency. However, it came with a major drawback: extreme price volatility. The value of a Bitcoin could swing by 10% or 20% in a single day. A merchant who accepted Bitcoin for a cup of coffee could find that its value had dropped significantly by the time they wanted to use it to pay their supplier. This volatility made it a fascinating speculative asset, but a poor medium of exchange and a terrible store of value for day-to-day commerce. The crypto world needed a solution that combined the technological benefits of a blockchain with the price stability of traditional fiat money. The answer came in the form of stablecoins. A stablecoin is a type of cryptocurrency that is designed to maintain a stable value by being pegged to another asset, usually a major world currency like the US dollar. The most common type of stablecoin is backed by reserves. For every $1 stablecoin issued, like Tether or USD Coin, the company behind it claims to hold $1 short-term government bonds in a real-world bank account. This makes the stablecoin a digital representation of a dollar that can be moved around on a blockchain quickly, cheaply, 24/7, without the need for the traditional banking system. Stablecoins quickly became the essential plumbing of the wider cryptocurrency ecosystem. They provided a safe haven for traders looking to exit a volatile position without having to convert their crypto back into traditional money, which can be slow and costly. They also became the primary unit of account and primary medium of exchange for decentralized finance applications. A new wave of financial services like lending, borrowing, and trading that are built on blockchain technology without traditional intermediaries. Stablecoins offered the best of both worlds: the stability of the dollar and the efficiency of a global, always-on blockchain network. Their circulation grew from a few billion to over $100 billion in just a few years. However, stablecoins are not without their own risks and controversies. Their stability rests entirely on the promise that they are fully backed by real assets. But the quality and transparency of these reserves have often been questioned. Is the stablecoin really backed one-to-one by safe liquid assets? Or are the reserves filled with riskier investments? A failure to honor redemptions could cause a stablecoin to lose its peg to the dollar, triggering a bank run that could send shockwaves through the entire crypto market. This has attracted intense scrutiny from regulators, who see them as a form of unregulated private money that could pose a risk to the broader financial system. The rise of private forms of digital money, decentralized Bitcoin, and corporate-controlled stablecoins has not gone unnoticed by the traditional guardians of the monetary system. Central banks and governments are concerned about losing control over monetary policy, the potential for financial instability, and the use for illicit activities. Their response has been to explore creating their own version of digital money, a central bank digital currency, or CBDC. This is often described as the empire striking back in the battle for the future of money. A CBDC would be a digital form of a country's official currency, like a digital dollar, a digital euro, or a digital yuan. Unlike your current electronic money, a commercial bank liability, a CBDC would be a direct liability of the central bank, like physical cash. It would let every citizen hold an account directly with the central bank. The safest form of digital money, free from commercial bank credit risk. Proponents say a CBDC could make payments more efficient, reduce costs, and promote financial inclusion. But it raises questions about power, privacy, and the role of the state. A CBDC would give the central bank a direct, real-time view of every transaction made by every citizen. This level of surveillance is unprecedented. It would let the state program money. Example: stimulus payments that expire to encourage spending. Example: automatic tax deduction at point of sale. It could block transactions or freeze accounts of people deemed undesirable. That creates a powerful tool of social and political control. The race is underway. China leads with the ECNY pilot. The European Central Bank experiments with a digital euro. The US Federal Reserve studies a digital dollar. The debate pits efficiency and stability against risks to privacy and freedom. CBDCs are the opposite pole to Bitcoin's decentralized ethos. It's the re-centralization of monetary power by the state in a digital form. Decentralized, corporate, and state-controlled. The competition between these models will define the next chapter in the story of money. Our 30-minute story of money has taken us on a journey spanning thousands of years. We began in a world constrained by the inefficiencies of barter, where trade was a clumsy dance of double coincidences. We saw how societies first overcame this by adopting commodity money, useful items like salt, shells, and grain, which served as a common medium of exchange. This was a crucial first step, but these early forms of money were plagued by problems of durability, divisibility, and standardization. The search for a better tool led humanity to metals, and ultimately to the revolutionary invention of the coin in Lydia and in China. For the first time, money became a standardized token of value, guaranteed by the power of the state, a tool that built empires and unified economies. As commerce grew more sophisticated, even heavy coins became a burden. This led to our second act, the rise of paper money and banking. The simple promise of a goldsmith to safeguard gold evolved into the banknote, a lightweight and convenient representation of value. This innovation gave birth to fractional reserve banking, the art of creating money as credit, which funded the explosion of capitalism and the growth of nation-states. To manage this new power, central banks were formed, and the world briefly united under the discipline of the gold standard. But the immense pressures of war and depression shattered this golden anchor, ushering in the modern era of fiat money. In our third act, money began to dematerialize entirely, transforming into electronic bits and bytes. The end of the Bretton Woods system in 1971 untethered the US dollar from gold, creating our current world of floating fiat currencies. Technologies like SWIFT and the credit card built the invisible plumbing for a new globalized economy, allowing capital to flow across borders at the speed of light. This system fueled unprecedented growth, but also created new forms of instability, culminating in the near collapse of the financial system in 2008. The crisis shattered public trust and set the stage for our final act, the one we are living through now, where radical new ideas like Bitcoin, mobile money, stablecoins, and central bank digital currencies are all competing to define the next chapter of our story. Throughout this long history, we have seen the same three engines of change at work: trust, technology, and power. Trust is the invisible bedrock, the shared belief that makes a worthless token or a digital entry valuable. Technology is the enabler, the force that makes new forms of money possible, from the minting press to the blockchain. And power is the constant struggle over who gets to control this vital tool: private merchants, commercial banks, national governments, or decentralized networks of users. The story of money is the story of how these three forces have interacted, pushing and pulling society forward in a constant search for a better way to exchange value. As we stand at this critical juncture, the path forward is not a single clear road, but a fork with several possible directions. Based on the trends we have explored, we can imagine three realistic scenarios for the future of money over the next decade or two. The first scenario is one of state-led evolution. In this future, the current system largely persists, but with a major upgrade. Central banks, concerned by the rise of private crypto assets, successfully roll out their own central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. The digital dollar, digital euro, and digital yuan become the primary forms of money, coexisting with, but gradually supplanting, physical cash and commercial bank deposits. This world is more efficient, with faster and cheaper payments, but also more centralized, giving governments unprecedented visibility and control over financial activity. A second, more disruptive scenario is a future of fragmented coexistence. In this world, no single form of money wins out. Instead, we live in a hybrid financial ecosystem. You might receive your salary in a state-issued CBDC, use a corporate stablecoin like one issued by a major tech company for online shopping and social media transactions, and hold a decentralized cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or Ethereum as a long-term speculative store of value, a form of digital gold. Bitcoin, Ethereum. In this fragmented landscape, different currencies serve different purposes. The challenge would be interoperability, how these different systems talk to each other, and the complexity for ordinary users who would need to navigate a mosaic of different digital wallets and assets, each with its own risks and benefits. The third and most radical scenario is one of decentralized disruption. In this potential future, public trust in traditional institutions continues to erode due to inflation, political instability, or another financial crisis. As a result, citizens and businesses increasingly opt out of the state-controlled system and move towards private and decentralized alternatives. Open, permissionless blockchain networks and their associated stablecoins and cryptocurrencies become the foundation for a parallel global financial system. A DeFi world that offers services like lending, borrowing, and exchange outside the control of banks and governments. This would represent a fundamental reordering of power, but it would also be a volatile and less regulated world, a digital Wild West, with significant risks of fraud, hacks, and systemic instability. Which of these scenarios will come to pass? The most likely outcome is probably a mix of all three, with different regions of the world leaning in different directions. China is already deep into the state-led evolution scenario. The United States and Europe may find themselves in a world of fragmented coexistence for some time. Meanwhile, countries with unstable governments and high inflation might see grassroots adoption of decentralized currencies. The future of money is not predetermined. It will be shaped by technological breakthroughs, regulatory decisions, and most importantly, by the choices that we, as citizens, make about where we place our trust. The story of money is not just a grand historical narrative or a topic for economists and policymakers. It is a practical reality that affects every aspect of our lives. Understanding the forces at play is essential for navigating the changes that are already underway. For citizens, the key is to cultivate financial literacy for the 21st century. This means going beyond traditional budgeting and saving. The money in your bank account, a stablecoin, a cryptocurrency. Pay attention to the debate around CBDCs in your country. Ask critical questions about the trade-offs between convenience, privacy, and control. In a world of digital money, being aware of cybersecurity best practices is no longer optional. It is fundamental to protecting your assets. For businesses, the coming shifts present both challenges and opportunities. The rise of digital currencies promises to make payments more efficient and cheaper, especially cross-border payments. This could open up new markets and streamline supply chains. Companies should begin to experiment with accepting and using different forms of digital money to understand the technical and operational implications. However, they must also be acutely aware of the regulatory uncertainty and the volatility risk associated with some of these new assets. The key for businesses will be adaptability. Those who understand the shifting landscape and can flexibly integrate new payment rails will have a significant competitive advantage over those who wait for the dust to settle. For policymakers and regulators, the task is to strike a delicate and difficult balance. They must foster innovation that can make the financial system more efficient and inclusive while protecting consumers and ensuring stability. Rushing to ban new technologies often proves futile and can stifle economic growth. Conversely, a completely hands-off approach risks repeating the mistakes that led to the 2008 crisis. The wise path involves creating clear regulatory sandboxes for new ideas to be tested safely. It requires international cooperation to establish standards for digital assets and prevent a regulatory race to the bottom. Their ultimate responsibility is to ensure that the monetary system serves the public interest. The story of money has always been a story of human ingenuity in the face of new challenges. The current transition is no different. The move to a digital native financial world is filled with immense promise. The promise of a more inclusive economy, an efficient economy, a globally connected economy. But it is also fraught with peril, the risk of greater inequality, unchecked corporate power, and a future of digital authoritarianism. The outcome is not yet written. By understanding the long history of this powerful tool, we are better equipped to engage in the debates and make the choices that will shape its future, ensuring that the next chapter in the story of money is one that benefits all of humanity.